In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create the demo slider that you see on our demo pages and probably on your front page if you followed our previously tutorials. Right, so the first thing, you need to go back to your WordPress dashboard. Let's go to Layer Slider page and click on Add New button. Name your slider. I'm going to call it my second slider. Click on Add Slider. Now we are taken to our creation page. For the slider width, I will enter a percent value. This means the slider will become fully responsive and will stretch to the entire width of our screen. For slider height, I'm going to enter 400. This means value of 400 pixels. Enable the responsiveness. You don't need any max width value here. Turn on this setting. And for responsive under, you need to enter 978 pixels. This means that under this value, if the screen of the device that is viewing your slider is lower than this value here, it will become responsive and it will become smaller according to the screen of the device that is viewing the slider. Right, let's move to slideshow. You have different options here. Start slideshow, you can enable this. Pause and hover. This means that whenever you will hover your mouse over a certain slide, it will not go to the next slide unless you move your mouse outside of the slider area. Okay, animate starting slide. This is enabled by default. Start with slide 1. You can actually start with a different slide if you want. Keyboard navigation, you can leave this on if you want for your users to use the left and the right arrow keys to navigate through slides. Touch navigation, gesture-based navigation with swiping on touch-enabled devices. This is probably useful if you have if your visitors are using tablets and like iPads or maybe Samsung devices, whatever. Okay, loops, you can enable here a number of loops. 0 means infinite. Like the slider will always start from the beginning when the last slide has been showed. Okay, leave these other options as they are. For appearance, you can use different skins for your slider. For this example, I'm just going to use the full width option. Leave all the other settings as they are and move to the navigation area. Okay, here you can set to actually show the prev and next buttons. Leave this on. Show start and stop buttons. We don't need this. Slide navigation buttons again. You can play around with these settings and see how your slider looks better. This is actually a nice setting to show the prev and next buttons whenever you hover your mouse over the slider. So as you can see, by default there's no navigation buttons, but as soon as I hover my mouse over the slider area, you can see the next and the previous buttons appearing. Okay, you can turn on the show bar timer. I don't like this. Show circle timer. Okay, this is a nice feature. Thumbnail navigation. This will only show if you turn on the the thumbnail navigation settings. Right, so now that we have configured our slider with the settings we want, we can actually create the slides. Like I said before, our slider will have 4 different slides. Our first slide is by default is created by the slider whenever you create a slider, right? So you can see here the preview area of the elements we create. Each of the slide we create will have a background set, a transition, and different layers according to the elements that will be used for each slide. Right, so let's set a background for our first slide. So click on this button here. And I'm guessing that you imported the demo content. Otherwise, you can use your own images to create your slider. Okay, I'm going to select this background, click insert, and as you can see, the background has been inserted. Click on enter preview. That's a nice fade in effect, because for the slider settings, we actually used this option here to animate starting slide. So the first slide that appears with a nice fade in effect. Right, you can select the transitions. The transitions is actually the effect that will animate the way that your slider disappears or appears. Like I can select from about 200 different transitions. It's up to you to decide which one you like. So on. I'm just going to select this one because I like the scaling and horizontal spinning columns random effect. You can select more transitions. Okay, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to create the first element. So click on add new layer. The first element is going to be a picture element. So you can select from 4 different types of the layer. For this layer, I'm going to use the image element. Okay, so click to set a button, and I'm going to select this image here, which is called a girl typing PNG file. Click on insert, and I like how the slider looks. I mean, the element looks positioned, but I don't need this on the left side. I need this to the right side. So just click and drag to the right side. I'm not going to perfectly position this, but I'm still going to drag it a bit downwards, so you can see everything is perfectly aligned. You can actually tweak this by going to the Styles tab, and you have here a top value you can enter, and the left. For instance, if I enter here 450 pixels, you can see that there's a small gap here. Let's make it 460. Okay, so let's click on preview. As you can see, first the background appears, then the first element, the first layer, has a nice fade in effect from right to left. To change that, we need to go to transition, and you can actually see here a transition in, transition out. Now, the transition in, as the title suggests, will always control how the element appears in our scene. So, as you can see, it takes about 1000 milliseconds. That's about that's actually 1 second. And it's coming from an offset X position with 80 pixels. This means that from this value, from this initial state that we set here, the transition will add 80 pixels to this value, 460. So this will actually be, if you add 460 pixels with 80 pixels, it will give you a value like this. So this is the start point for our transition, and because of the fade effect, you can actually, this is appearing from this position and is moving to this position that we set here, 460 pixels. Right, but in order to make this a even greater looking animation, I'm not going to use any values here. I'm just going to type in right. This means that the picture element will be taken from the far right to the actual position we set. So from the far right, from the right portion of your screen, if you want, it will be animated to come to this position, to the 460 pixels. Let's see how this looks like. As you can see, there's a transition, a much bigger transition if you want. Right, I'm going to increase this to 1500 milliseconds to make this smoother. Right, I'm going to disable the fade effects, the transition out. I'm just going to enter here right again. This means that the element will come into the scene, wait until everything else happens in our scene, and then just transition out, go back to the right position. Now I'm going to increase this again to the same value that we have here for smoother transition and longer, stay in periods. Right, so if I click this now, okay, now you can't actually see the transition out because there's no other slide added, but as soon as we will add the new slide, you will be able to see the transitions effect and also the transition out clearance effect. Right, the next thing we are going to do is create a new layer. This will be a actual HTML or text if you want. It's the same thing, but I'm preferring to use the HTML. I'm just going to call this "Your business deserves the best solution." And as you can see, the text appeared right here on top. Let's go to styles, and for the family you need to enter Oswald. This is a Google font I like to use. The size will be 36 pixels. Just enter 36, line height 36. Alright, let's try and position this a bit to the left, right, and now a bit bottom, 50 pixels down. Right, okay, I'm just going to do something with the text, which I like to actually use 2 rows, as you can see, and now go back to styles and enter here a new option for the custom styles, letter spacing. Let's make it -2 pixels. This will actually make your text a bit more compact. Looks better if you ask me. Right, if I enter here 46, you can see that the spacing between the first row and the second row has increased. I'm just going to let it somewhere like this to 40. Right, this looks a lot better now. And for the color, you can actually specify any color you want. I'm just going to use a pure black. Okay, let's go back to transition. As you can see, the same default values have been added, like an offset X and offset X for the transition out. Just make this to 0, 0. Disable the fade-in effect. I don't want to use this. Again, use for duration settings a value like this. And something I forgot. Sorry. Something that I forgot to do for this first element is actually enter a delay value. So make sure you click on this element, or you go to layer and make sure that you have the layer 1 selected. You can actually name this like my image element, right? So you can actually identify your elements a lot more easier. Okay, so I'm going to enter here a delay. This is this will actually create a better effect because we want to slowly animate all the elements, first the background, then the image, then the text, not all the elements at once, right? So let's go back to layer 2. I'm going to call this my heading, sorry about that, my heading text. Right, so I'm going to move this in a vertical direction. I'm going to enter here top. Okay, duration, this value here. I'm going to increase the delay for with about 300 milliseconds, considering that we already had 300 milliseconds delay for our first element. This means that the second element will have plus 300 milliseconds, meaning 600 milliseconds, right? So let's see what happens now. As you can see, first the background appears, then the right element, the right picture, and then our heading text. This looks actually nice. I'm going to create a new layer here. Okay, let's call this my subheading text. Enter here something like Creativo. That's a multi-purpose WordPress theme, right? Let's go and style this text here. Go to styles. For left, I'm going to enter the exact same value and just going to drag this. Okay, this is a bit too much. I'm going to make it 155. Left needs to be 20 pixels to be perfectly aligned with our first text. Okay, for this I'm going to enter a size of 24 pixels. Again, enter later spacing, spacing -2 pixels. Yes, this looks a lot better. I'm going to make this dark green or light green. Okay, I think it looks better with 160 pixels, right? Okay, let's go back to transition. Again, the same default values. Going to enter here the same value as I did before. For the delay, again, this is the third layer. So we had 300 milliseconds, 600, now 900 milliseconds. I'm increasing for each element with 300 milliseconds. Right. I'm going to make this to appear actually from the right with an offset of X. Let's see what happens. Okay. Still, this is not actually what I want to achieve here. Let's enter this like 200 pixels, see what happens now. As you can see, because we disable the fade effect, the text is already present. Let's enable this. Okay, appears this one, the background, right, top, and the second blur. Let's try and see it again. All right. You can actually go even further if you want. Okay, or you can actually enter here right, like I did before with this element, enter preview. It's up to you to decide how you like the effect. I'm going to turn this off, right. So I'm going to create a new layer, call this again HTML or text, doesn't matter. I'm going to call this description text, and I'm just going to add some default text here, like a lorem ipsum generated text, which I'm going to copy from the main slider. Okay, At the end you need to enter some HTML code for break row. As you can see, drag and drop this. Let's go and style this text. Enter 14 pixels value here. Right, for the left you need to enter this value, 20 pixels. It looks okay aligned. Let's go to transition now and play around with the effects again. Turn off, enter here 0 value. I'm going to animate this to come from the bottom. So for the offset Y, you just need to enter here bottom. Again here I'm going to use this value, once again this value. For the delay, this is our fourth layer, 1200 milliseconds. That's the delay. Let's see what happens now. Right, so the first image element appears, and then the second, the third, and the fourth. Okay, this looks okay. Let's add our final element to the scene, which is going to be a button. I'm going to call this a button. Now again, click on HTML, and for a button you need to enter something like this, code, HTML code. Enter your link here. Not going to use any link. I'm going to specify this. If I want to open the page in a new blank page, browser window, sorry. Okay, but you need to enter this, a class attribute, and enter here button space button default, and the size of your button small. Close my cool text, and again close this perimeter here. Right, do not click here on this button. You can see that the button has been generated, but do not click on it. If you do, you will lose all your changes. So it would be a nice moment to, you know, click on save changes. Everything has been saved. If you want to reposition this, make sure the button layer has been selected, and go to styles, give it a 20 pixels, and try to enter here a value of 300 pixels. As you can see, now the button appears exactly where we wanted. Go to transition, fade in right, we don't need this. Let's make it appear from the left this time. Again, this value, oops, here, same value here. The delay should be, because it's the fifth layer, 1500 milliseconds. That's about 1.5 seconds. Okay, let's enter the preview mode. Okay, and everything looks cool. Exit preview, save your changes again. Okay, let's go to pages now and try to assign our our created slider, even though we only have one slide created. Let's go ahead and go to all pages. Can remember the page that we used for demo site. Hit refresh, and you can actually edit this page. It was called my first homepage. Actually forgot that. Right, edit the first element, the layer slider element, and select my second slider. Click on save, click update, click on view page, and as you can see, this it's now using the slider we created. It only has one slide, but still it's looking pretty good. Okay, we are now going to create the second slide and see just how easy it is, just like we created the first one. Let's go back to layer sliders, click on my second slider, and click on add new slide.